Welcome, welcome. I'm Lauren Pearson, and I'm the founder of the Wealth Edit with Emily, who's my co-founder. And this is all the seed funders. So we're so glad to have you here. We're excited that you made it to the finals. So I'm going to ask some questions, and then if one of the seed funders has a question, they're going to pop it in chat, and then I'm going to direct them to you so they can ask the question themselves.
Sure.
That sound good?
Sounds fantastic.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so to start out, just tell us a little bit about your vision for Luscious Mother, where y'all have been, and then really explain your pivot.
Sure. So first of all, thanks so much for having me. I'm honored and thrilled to be with all of you. I see my girl Eleanor down there. She interviewed me last week. Amazing. So what I've done with Luscious Mother, and I talked about this a little bit in the video, is it was always sort of a side project inside of Sarah Olin Coaching, my more buttoned up executive coaching work. And I started working with moms very naturally and organically. And I do one-on-one coaching and small group coaching. And I started hosting in-person retreats. And it was amazing. And every time I'd leave a retreat, I'd say, I just want to spend all my time and energy doing this. And my business strategist would say, you don't make money on this thing, sis. Right? So it wasn't, I could coach 2 individual clients or host a retreat. So it wasn't scalable in the way that I was doing it. So what I know about coaching is that it's typically reserved for the 1%. Not a lot of women have access to it because it's considered a luxury. And what I believe is that it's actually not a luxury, that coaching for mothers can absolutely transform their lives and their businesses and their marriages. And I've seen it over and over and over again. And I want to make it accessible to every woman on the planet. And right now it's just, years ago when I was training to be a coach, my sister, who is a solid, amazing middle-class gal with 2 kids, her husband's a Navy chief, beautiful, beautiful family. She was choosing between putting a new roof on her house or hiring a coach. And she chose putting a new roof on her house, right? So the opportunity with all this online work is making this accessible to so many women. And additionally, that's where the pivot lives, is we did a lot of in-person or one-on-one work. And now it's, how do we create this as an online experience? That's the big pivot. And the thing that I'm most excited about from a business standpoint is I did this program as a one-on-one offering with moms. I call it the Return to Work program, or the Expecting Moms program. So I would do coaching with a pregnant mom for 10 months. We'd start in the last trimester, leading up to maternity leave, setting mom up to win and setting the business up to win. And then after baby comes, new moms need more support, not less. So we'd start coaching when they were ready. And then re-entry 3 to 4 months on the other side, when they're emotional and feeling guilty and shame and what am I doing, and leaving the baby with strangers and all the things. So that program for an individual to go through is super, super expensive. So what we've been working on is having that now be an online program, very affordable, very accessible, and now 10 to 20 women can have access to that program in a big company versus 1. So for the same cost. So that's the big pivot from individual one-on-one work to more global online.
Yeah. And can you drill down a little bit more into like how you'll use the funds, and like what makes you think, like what is your conviction about how this is going to be successful? Do you have data behind it of any sort?
Can you say that one more time?
Do you have data behind it or any sort, like, of why you think this is going to be a successful model online, transitioning from individual to making it available to a wider group?
Yeah. Well, 43 million women have children. So I think there's a good market for it. And I think a lot of them are unsatisfied and having a hard time making it all work. It's been my experience and what I've seen over and over again. And I think that everything now is trending online. I don't have hard data about the statistics of online programming and the success of it. I do know that my business has grown exponentially organically through word of mouth, through happy clients. And specifically what the fund would be used for is tech. It's, online platforms, website, but really, how do we get all these platforms to talk to one another? The part that creates the community. We want to have a community platform for women to come and to be secure and safe and monitored, new moms, and then moms of kids that are about to graduate from high school, right? So having these different offerings and groups, and then, the web capacity and things like that. That's what it would be used for.
Yeah. And then do you have, there's two questions. So we'll start with Mary Ellen and then we'll go to Andrea.
Yeah.
So let me unmute, or yeah. All right, Mary Ellen, you're unmuted.
Hey, did the moms go through in cohorts for the online program, or could they enter at any time?
They can enter at any time. And one of the things that we added on, right, and that's such a challenging thing to say, hey, if you're 30 weeks, this is a good time, right? It's, it's so natural and up to the universe and out of our hands. So people it's a rolling enrollment for the online program. And to help it be more cohesive and have more of a community impact, part of the program is that there'll be 2 live Zoom calls per month that they can pop on. One will be after hours in the evening for moms who can't access it during the day, and one will be during normal business hours, right? And they'll be recorded and they'll be able to come on and ask questions in a forum like this and get supported in real time. So there's actually a lot of support to it, and it's not fully online, but the majority is.
Okay, that makes sense. And then that, Andrea, you have a question too. Let me get to her. Unmute. Okay. Sorry, it's my tech. There we go.
No, that's fine. So Sarah, do you actually have a marketing plan on how to attract more online clients?
Right now, that's in process. We're working on it. We've got a business plan, we've got a pitch deck, and the feedback that we've gotten actually on the business plan is that it reads more like a marketing plan. And a former client of mine is a CMO, so she's agreed to help us, but we actually don't have it formalized. And it's been one of the things with this is we've gone really fast about how we're going to do this. And I'm now actually trying to slow down a little bit so that we are not just throwing spaghetti at the wall, that it's actually thoughtful and on track, but we don't have the actual document yet.
Thank you. And then Bibi, you had a question.
Hey, first of all, you are so cute and we're excited you're here, so thank you. I am the least friendly person on this call, so don't be insulted by the way I approach this question.
No.
But your 2020 revenue that's in the budget you submitted,
Yep.
Is that a pre-pivot revenue? So you're anticipating that and you're anticipating taking that small loss, and then you jump pretty aggressively in 2021.
Yeah.
To a really awesome number. Is that all around this concept of going to this online platform? I mean, is it, not to criticize you, but is there a foundation for how you're going to grow that quickly in that direction?
Yeah, so basically, just to give you a little background, I've been doing just me as a solopreneur for a long time. And in November, I held a private retreat at my house and brought together a group of really smart, capable women. And I said, hey, I've got this dream and this vision. Are you interested in being a part of it? And every single woman said yes. And every single woman has been bringing her own brick since then. We've just actually gone through all of our legal formation and signed all of our partnership agreements. And there's 3 women on the team who'll be doing sales, including myself, with lots and lots of experience with sales in big corporations, with tech startups, in more traditional businesses. So I feel confident. It's a group of hustlers, straight up, the good kind of hustlers.
Do you have, it sounds like you have some experience working with corporations. So you have a plan for how you're going to take that from individual work with, I assume, executives to more of the masses?
Yeah, that's part of the online strategy, and doing internal workshops and webinars and scaling it. And one of the things that we're working on is a book. My business partner is a writer, fabulous, so everything sort of works together to have it be elevated and impactful and successful.
Yeah. That's great. And then tell us a little bit about your history, did you do anything before you coached, or kind of give us a little bit of your story? And then I know we're probably going to have to wrap up. These are short interviews, I know.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. So before I was a coach, I lived in New York City, and I was an actress and a bartender and a yoga teacher, a very special combo. A non-drinking bartender, meditating bartender is really awesome. So I had a small business called Relax Already. Relax Already. What's more New York than that? Nothing at all. So I'd go into big companies and teach people how to relax through the, think better, feel better through the tools of yoga and meditation. And what I found was I'd go into these companies, they'd set up these beautiful programs, 50 people would sign up, and then the day of, there'd be 3 people in the room. And what I realized was anything would trump their well-being. Anything, a phone call, an email, a conversation at the water cooler, literally anything could get in the way. So, and then these HR directors would say things like, I just want to pay you to talk to you. And I said, yes. Tell me more. That sounds like a great idea. And coaching was really having a moment at that time. I got pregnant with my daughter, and I said, okay, I'm going to be a therapist, a guidance counselor, some kind of helper. And the coaching was everywhere. And I just loved the conversation about putting people into power, taking back power. How do we do that? And that's the whole deal. I feel like coaching is a superpower, and every single woman should have access to it, especially moms. Every woman, 100%, but moms have a lot to carry, right? They're dealing with lots of humans having lots of needs around them. So, yeah.
And this is the last question, but where did the name come from?
So I was on the phone with my first coach, and I was rattling off all the things that I wanted to create. New coach, super, yeah, about everything. And I said, at that time, I had this opportunity to be on this team to go train coaches at the United Nations. And I wanted to do a video series and have a 6-figure coaching business. And she said, who would you need to be in order to create all that? And I said, luscious mother. And that was it. And here we are. I mean, it was just an idea, a vision of what motherhood could be beyond the shoulds and the memes of like how bad it is and like, oh, I can't wait till my, I just think that, we had kids on purpose for the most part. So why not enjoy it? Why not have a great life and show them how it's done? So.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, thank you so much. We're so happy, and y'all did such an excellent job, and we are grateful to know more about you.
Thank you. I loved being with you all. And if there's anything additional I can provide, please let me know.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on. Yeah, there you are.
Hey,
How are you?
good. How are y'all?
Good. Welcome. Thanks for being here. We're really excited. We're excited about NeoWaste and all that you're doing. So thanks for joining us.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me. This is
Sure.
really exciting.
Our only Birmingham representation.
Oh, good. Well, the pressure's on now, for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. Okay, well, we are not scientists. I'm only about like as smart as you. So
I'm not either, so don't worry.
a little bit about NeoWaste as a concept, just explain it to us, and then also tell us how this is pivoting your business. Like,
Sure.
you can talk us through that really quickly.
Absolutely. NeoWaste, really, the most simple way to explain it is to think about the way that plastic is made to begin with, and that is from extracting crude oil out of the ground and refining that into petrochemicals that eventually go into making plastic. So the inherent building blocks that go into making plastic are carbon and hydrogen molecules. We are recycling those two molecules. Through our process, we're able to isolate them and then regroup different chains, this is sounding really technical. We're able to regroup different chains, chain links of the hydrogen and carbon molecules, so we can actually produce gasoline, kerosene, diesel fuel, jet fuel, bunker fuel, a number of other things. We're also exploring opportunities with companies like Total and some of the other big refineries that produce plastic to produce the actual building blocks of plastic to make new plastic from old plastic.
And so how are you pivoting your business right now?
Okay, so we have really been heavily focused on the back end of our business, which is fuel production. So, you know, we can have the best technology in the world, but if there's no one to buy our fuel product at the end of the day, that's our number one revenue stream. Excuse me, I'm gonna catch my breath for a minute. I'm a little nervous. So we've had this really great relationship with Sunoco, which is one of the largest oil and gas companies in the US. And they have a site located in Birmingham. And so we've been really heavily focused on our partnership with them and making sure that our fuel meets their specs. Our technology is really, I mean, it's robust enough to take any type of waste material. So plastic is our best material to take. We get more fuel out of plastic than any other type of waste. So we're focusing on that, but we can take any type of waste. And the really unique thing is that we can take contaminated plastics, whereas traditional recyclers cannot do that. Most of what comes out of municipal recycling bins is contaminated plastic. Most of what comes out of industrial recycling, industrial manufacturing facilities is contaminated plastic. We could actually start generating revenue right now if we would charge to go ahead and take those materials. We've been waiting until Sunoco qualifies our fuel, like, to make sure it meets their standards. So we won't get an offtake agreement with them until we produce fuel that meets their specs a number of times so they can test the variation. But in the interim, we could start taking these other materials from, we have several municipalities, the Greater Birmingham the Greater Birmingham Councilors Roundtable, which is, you know, about 10 to 15 different municipalities are a part of this group, have already asked us to start taking some of their material. The city of Gadsden has asked us to start taking material, but we can't do it. We're very limited in space. We have 30,000 square feet of indoor space and about 25,000 square feet of outdoor space, but the material when it comes to us is really bulky. If you saw in some of the pictures in our videos, I mean, automotive plastic, and then if you look at the unshredded, even the municipal collected materials, they're really bulky. And so without shredding it first, they take up a whole lot of space. And so we just don't have a place to store it right now, but we could potentially take up to 2.5, we estimated it out based on square footage and the size of our containers. We've estimated that we can take over 2 million pounds of material over the course of the next 8 months. that would generate an essential amount of revenue for us right now, because we're not allowed to go on site as often as we were at Sunoco. They have contractor restrictions. And on top of that, we're waiting for a couple of replacement parts from India, which is where our equipment was manufactured, and they're not allowing any shipments out right now. So we're kind of at a standstill with our core business of converting the waste. So we really see this as not necessarily the only opportunity. I've taken on some consulting roles as well, doing some waste management consulting in the interim to try to help kind of generate some revenue. We had expected to be generating revenue in the next few months. And with this downturn, it's kind of thrown a wrench in our plans, but we're still plugging away. But the shredder is just the absolute most critical component to our growth now, as well as when things are back to normal. That was already our bottleneck in the amount of waste that we could start processing based on how much we could shred.
And can you buy a shredder for $25,000?
I'm sure I can, but the one that I think that the 25,000 won't go so far. The one that we're looking at is 38.8. It's in Arab, Alabama. Another recycling company that we work with has a couple of them there. And this one is actually, it's the same model as the brand new one that we got quoted for. It has all it comes down to the number of knives and different things that are in there for the processing capacity. So yes, I could buy one for 25,000. It just wouldn't process as much. We would probably be less than 2 million pounds in that month, based on our operating hours. But yes, we could find one. But the one where we have our eye on is 38.8.
Okay. And then can you give us a little bit about your history, kind of pre-NeoWaste, successes, failures, anything you'd like to share?
How honest do I want to get here? Let's see. Well, let's just start with, okay, so my undergrad degree is in political science. I graduated from Miles College, and my first, which is an HBCU for people who aren't aware of that, it was an interesting experience. I took a couple of grant writing courses and a certification while I was in college. My first job out of college was economic development grant writing for the city of Bessemer. And I was assigned to work with a tire recycling company to help them get letters of intent and some other things so that they could finance a shredder for tires, which was going to be one of the initial anchor tenants of a new industrial park, which is now in McCalla, but at the time was just being thought up. This was in 2009. And when I was working with that, the woman who owned the tire company recruited me from the city to work with her. And I, at that point, learned everything there was to know about tires and scrap tire recycling. And about a year later, one of my professors from Miles, Dr. Richard Arrington, he introduced me to a gentleman who owned a multinational waste to energy company. And I was recruited by them to come and basically bring the technology that I had brought into the tire recycling company into this multinational waste to energy company. And a few months later, I was hired to basically bring polycrack technology, which is the technology that I use for my process now, into this company. And we started developing projects to deploy that alongside a larger scale waste to ethanol process in 40 plus international markets. So I've visited landfills on every continent except for Antarctica. I have presented to counselors in Seoul, South Korea. I have presented to a prince in Saudi Arabia. I've met the Zulu king. Like, I have been around the world in waste management. So that's, and then a couple years ago, the CEO of that company was indicted, and I resigned promptly and let out of my non-compete at that time and took polycrack technology with me when I left. And 3 months later, launched NeoWaste. That's my, in a nutshell, story. There's so many more things that happened during that time, but we'll go with that.
And so there's a few questions about the numbers, and I'm just gonna, for sake of time, go through them very quickly. So the $38,000 investment will return 55,000 in 8 months.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up my numbers too, because
And then where are you planning to get the other 18 or 19,000 just around?
for the other, I'm sorry, what?
Like the 20, you'll let's say you get 25 here. How are you
Right.
going to bridge the gap?
Oh, so I already have a really good banking relationship at Service First. That's who we have our current line of credit with. They are aware of our plans to acquire a shredder, and I've already talked to the banker about this potential opportunity and have been told it should not be, I'm pretty certain that I will be able to finance the remainder of that. I raised $50,000 from friends and family. I've been told not to call it around because there were no terms, so no one took any ownership or anything. It was more so gifted. And so that's the collateral in the bank. And so I was told that that should cover enough for whatever the remainder would be on the shredder.
Yeah.
But if for whatever reason that did not come through, so my co-founder and fiance, Fernando Valentin, he also has a company that they develop packaging for the automotive industry. And so he has really been financing a lot of Neo-Waste's efforts because they're one of our feedstock suppliers essentially. So this is an investment that they're in a way making as well. So I think that they may finance it. And then the company that is selling, that we expect to get the shredder from, they have already mentioned possibly doing a private finance for us with that. They're a large recycling company up there. And they're interested in sending us some of their contaminated plastics. So I think we have a few options as far as raising the remainder of that.
Yep.
I see a comment about the EDPA, the Launchpad. I won't go into detail. I'm so happy at any point to talk to anyone about my experience going through that, and how 4 months after the fact, I was told we were never eligible to apply because we don't own the IP for the conversion technology we use. So I'll just leave it at that, and would love to share that experience if any further explanation is needed. And I wanted to throw in the towel at that point, but I had a few really great advisors who convinced me to keep going, and I'm just really hoping to like show the EDPA like where they messed up. But sorry if there's anybody affiliated with the EDPA on here. I should, but they're great. It was a priceless experience. I mean, the exposure we got, the honing in on our messaging and like really focusing on the automotive plastics, like that would not have come if we hadn't gone through that. So it was priceless in and of itself. But
And you're
I'll have to say that.
Female.
Correct. And I am certified, WeBank certified as well. So women business owned, the women from the Women Business Enterprise National Council or something like that, WBENC.
Do you see the last question? And then we are going to have to let you go, but there were many questions that I received privately, so I'm going to ask them after, and then if you could respond to us, that would be really great. Do you see, what would your press release say if you were awarded?
Oh, goodness.
Let me say, I'm asking that from the question. I still don't understand what you do, but like everyone thinks you're wonderful. So I guess the question is like, if we were communicating to the outside world how you pivoted, could you just sum that up in a sentence for us?
Oh, goodness. Okay. Can I have 1 second to just process? Oh gosh, there's so many different directions I want to go with this. Let's just say, okay, because it needs to be about the pivot in particular, or about what I'm doing with the funds. Like, because I don't want to suggest that we're not focusing on our other like side of the business, but really this is the interim. But maybe something to the effect of the Pivot Fund keeps, woman-owned Birmingham business able to like keep the end goal in mind, by providing some interim, oh gosh, I don't know, headline. Y'all, I feel so much pressure.
That's okay. Why don't you email it to Lauren? That way we can copy and paste it when the time comes. How about that? Honestly, email it to
I don't know
Lauren.
how to put it in a nutshell with explaining the pivot, because yeah.
Well, Jessica, thank you so much. We really appreciate you.
Birmingham Waste to Fuel Company can shred up to 2 million pounds of plastic waste being generated throughout the state of Alabama.
That's awesome. Very good. All right.
Okay, I'll leave you with that. Thank you all very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, here you are. Welcome.
Hello. Welcome to Body Shop.
Oh, sure. Oh, it's very cute. Okay, so we would like to know about the Body Shop. So just give us a little bit of background and then how you're pivoting. That's our first question.
So I started building out the concept for Body Shop last March, almost kind of like a year to when we had to shut down for COVID. And my whole idea was that we didn't really have like a fun, approachable, inclusive, effective space for fitness in New Orleans. There's a big gap in the market. Body Shop, the location that I chose is on Brett Street. I don't know who's familiar with New Orleans or not. Everybody's kind of from all over, but we're 1 mile from Tulane and Loyola University. There's a huge group fitness is something that's come beyond just fitness. People use it as a place for community and like a social gathering, and a lot in like the millennials and the younger generation. I mean, I'm 28, so not much removed from me, but all really ages and abilities. And so I was definitely looking for a spot close to Tulane and Loyola, found an awesome corner location on Ferret Street, and we started the build out in last summer. So June, July, we started the build out. We opened our doors on November 16th. We were open for 4 months. We've got a few different kinds of fitness classes. We've got a dance cardio, which is super fun, a HIIT, which is interval style, a flex and flow, which is like low impact, high reps, slower flow, kind of Pilates inspired, and then a couple combo classes. It is me plus 8 other trainers, and then I've got desk staff and a few full-time. I've got a full-time marketing gal that helps me, and then someone who helps me with kind of, I call him like a human Siri. His name's Bobby, but he's business development. So I've got a really great team working with me, but the whole idea was just to make fitness fun and approachable. The studio space is dimly lit, so everybody feels really comfortable in there. They're not kind of caught up in their reflection. But the whole passion behind it was inspiring other people to feel good moving in their body, no matter their age or ability. It's all music forward, and just to have a good time, because you go back to what you enjoy. And then we also, so right behind me here is our infrared sauna room. We bought an infrared sauna. It was, I mean, it's rock and roll and people love it. It's been booked solid, not now, but when we were open, it really gained traction and was an awesome passive revenue stream. It paid for itself super quickly. And then it's kind of just like an ATM. So we really wanted to diversify our revenue streams between classes. We've got merchandise and some retail, and then the infrared sauna. And the idea was to layer in some other recovery technology as well down the line. The space is 3,000 square feet, so it's big. The studio space is in the back. The front area is a big, bright, that's where I'm sitting now, but really to foster a sense of community and place for people to commune. And part of that, there's this juice and smoothie bar that was being sublet to another tenant that I was subleasing. So I was their landlord, and during this, he has not been able to continue on. So we kind of just decided that it was in our best interest to take it over and make it something really special, put Body Shop spin on it, really high quality ingredients, really great customer service. Again, approachable, nothing crazy and too woo-woo with the health stuff, but just delicious, nutritious smoothies. And really goal is to expand upon that and make it a little bit more of a cafe, but one step at a time. But our real pivot with everything that happened is we were open 4 months to the day when we decided to shut down. I think our pivot started a little bit before that, because it was this period of how to make people feel comfortable coming into a group fitness space. I mean, it's a high touch environment. One thing I loved about classes was like that interaction, that high five, that fist bump before class, like we're in it together, and that quickly changed. Like quick message, out to all the trainers, like no touching, no high fiving, air fives. And then that parlayed into like, I was teaching an all standing class the day, the last class that we taught here before we decided to shut down, which was actually decided before the city mandated it. Just I was feeling like it was not the responsible thing to do to be open at that time. So we shut on a Monday. That was our last class, was my 9:30 a.m. dance cardio class. And quickly sat down with like my core team and was like, we've got to keep people moving. The anxiety levels were high. All of our students were being sent home. The seniors were like, we're staying. We're going to, even if classes are canceled, we have to take them from home. We're going to stay. We're going to be here every day. They like really use this as kind of like a sanctuary from the library or from the bars or whatever. It was like another fun space outside of that. And so that all shifted really quickly. And I knew it was important to keep people moving. For anxiety, I have my own struggles with anxiety, especially in college, during those kind of rough years. And I know movement was the solution for me. It was my medicine. And so I wanted to make sure that we had that available to people, even if our actual studio needed to be closed. So we got together, we did it on iPhone. At first, we did it through Zoom. We quickly learned that like that wasn't the platform for us. And even to this day, we are just reforming our streaming platform every day. We integrated a chat feature. Then we further kind of developed that. And now it's all hosted on our website. People were signing up for live classes, and we figured out how to do like a teleprompter so the trainer could see who was in the class. And they were chatting and they were getting that commentary. So there was the back and forth, which makes all the difference. And I think is what kept our community streaming with us. There's a lot of like free and really, really inexpensive streaming fitness out there right now. It's like inundated. I mean, you guys are on social media, I'm sure you're seeing it. And so competing with that, it was like, how do we make it still body shop and unique to us? And we found that was really keeping that two-way, even though it's a very one-dimensional experience, but keeping it a two-way communication, very personal. And yeah, so we started doing that, and then people were loving the live classes. And then we learned that people's schedules are kind of all over the place, and we're a big feedback culture at Body Shop. So we're just like, tell us what you need. Tell us what you need, and we are going to support you guys in whatever way we can. And we just kept asking for feedback and reaching out, and our community is kind of used to that because that's how we've operated from day one. We're a service, and we want to provide the best service that we can for everybody. And so they wanted like a library of the classes. They wanted them saved so that they could okay, Mary, online
question. There's a chat question, yeah.
All of these are, so in the financials for anything March, April, May are all real and then projected for going forward.
Okay.
Does that answer that question?
Say it one more time.
So everything that's like up until current is real in the financials, and then everything going forward is obviously projected. Does that answer that question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so we built out a huge library of on-demand classes. So now we have a few different options for people. They can do unlimited live classes and get access to the library. They can just do the library. And as we move forward, we're super excited to keep that library growing and that on-demand and streaming platform a continuous revenue stream. In those projected financials, we haven't accounted for any marketing dollars. We're really bootstrapping it right now, word of mouth. And some of the grant money would definitely go to beefing up our marketing spend for not just the streaming, but also the juice bar. For 2020, those 2 new revenue streams that we're adding on make up about 50% of our gross revenue. So they are going to be really robust income streams for us, especially with who knows what's going to go on with class sizes. There's a lot of kind of unknowns in that sense. So being able to not just add 2 revenue streams, but have them be really meaningful for our business is incredible. And we just haven't really put the money into marketing, but to be able to cut through the space, especially with the streaming, we definitely do need to put dollars behind that.
So there's a question from Andrea. Andrea, do you want to unmute? You're in line.
Sure. Hey there. Hey, I was curious. What are your current membership numbers?
So we've got 44% of our members reactivated. So what we did was when it happened, we proactively, which we've gotten a lot of feedback, people really appreciated, froze everybody's membership. And we gave them the option to stay frozen, or reactivate and get access to our live streaming, and 44% of our members did. When we shut down, we had around 350, and those members we consider people with a 12-month contract of sorts. So our pricing structure was a little bit different than I think a lot of fitness studios, where we did it more on a contract basis, so we could kind of guarantee revenue streams for the months to come. And it was super popular. We did a lot of founders sales pushes before we even opened our doors. And then we had different rates for students and stuff, which we anticipated dropping off in the summer anyway. And this has actually been great because now they're still streaming with us. So those numbers that we were gonna lose in the summer, Tulane, everybody goes elsewhere. I mean, I'm a Northeast girl who came down here, went to Tulane and stayed. So, but they're streaming with us like coast to coast, and their parents are doing with us. And it's been awesome to see. And then in the chats, like I feel like with my friends, it's like little reunions, and that's been really nice. And just a lot of messages about how it's helped quell people's anxieties and kept them on a schedule, because we have these live classes, so people are still scheduling it into their day. Has been great.
And Kate, you had a question. Do you want to unmute your line, or a couple of questions?
Yes. Thank you for your time. I'd love to hear if you've thought about a franchise model.
So I actually, growth has been since before day one. Like my goal is not just have one of these. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with Cycle Bar, but it's a franchise fitness cycle studio. But I spoke to actually the guy who founded it, who's now they're held by a bigger holding company. But really early on, because people walk into our space and they're like, oh, this has to be a franchise. You must have one in West Hollywood. Like this is not just a one. It's super branded. It's fun. Everything to every last detail I thought about. And so yes, to answer your question, do I think that a franchise model is the best for us after kind of, sourcing different input about growth model? I don't necessarily think so, especially not at the beginning. I think growing to multiple locations. I've always thought that growing within like the SEC market is a great idea. We're a young, fun vibe, but we do have all ages of people in here. I just finished a private session with one of our members who's 66. So we've got everybody, but I always thought an SEC model going into these college markets would be a really great growth model. And yeah, so I don't know about franchising, but definitely growth is in our future.
Yeah. Okay, and then Bibi, did you have a question? Unmute. Right.
No, Reagan sorted it out for me. Thank you.
All right, so with this, can you also tell us, I think this is a good question because we're about to have to wrap out and we're a couple minutes late, but you've been so fun to talk to. Will you tell us a little bit about, like, do you have past successes, or is this kind of like your first success, and it's been great. Can you kind of talk us through that?
So after I graduated college, I was working at another fitness studio, and I would say I got success there in terms of like I grew immensely. I was managing their business, transitioned to teaching, grew a huge kind of following community of my own, and then when I transitioned out of that and started building Body Shop, I was doing like what I called a gypsy gym. And I was out of the back of my car at the different parks in New Orleans. And I was getting like people at 6 in the morning in the middle of New Orleans in the summer, which if you know, like, like 15 people. So I think that's a success. Is it like a big grand financial success run through Venmo? No. But it was definitely, a learning, but this is my first entrepreneurial venture.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm sure we'll have follow-up questions, and if we do, we're going to send them over email because we're just tight on time. And if you could answer those and get back to us, that'd be really helpful.
Of course.
Thank you
guys so much.
Absolutely.
Have a great evening, y'all. I really appreciate it.
Sure thing. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Hey, Kia. I'm going to move the main screen, the spotlight video, okay? Just so we have someone that we're looking at on the recording.
Okay.
Jaslyn, we see you, and we're excited that you're here too. Okay, so will y'all just tell us a little bit, and you can just take a couple minutes. We are on a little bit of a tight time frame, but just take a couple minutes, tell us about each of you, and then tell us your her market story.
Sure. I'll kick it off. My name is Kia Perry, and I started off actually in the event management world. I went to school for it, actually, event management. And I actually did nothing with that until recently, but I eventually became a graphic designer, all while working in retail. I worked at Nordstrom for about 5 years. I did everything from sales to ultimately being a visual stylist, and that is where I met Jaslyn. This was in 2012. We worked in the same department. She was an intern, and I was a salesperson. And even after we left Nordstrom, we kind of followed each other everywhere. We went to the loft together, and then I entered into film in the wardrobe and costume department. And so I drug her along with me there too. And it wasn't until she went to SCAD that we kind of separated and went our separate ways, but we always kept in touch. And so when she finished SCAD, she reached out to me and said, hey, you know, we need to catch up, that type of thing. And I said, yeah, we definitely do. And she said, I would love for us to collaborate on something. And I had actually kind of had been starting her market on my own. And I knew I wanted a business partner. And so it was kind of serendipitous for her to reach out and say that. So I said, well, you know, I have this her market thing, so you can help me with that because I definitely need a lot of help. And I knew that I wanted to scale it to a certain place. And so I knew I wasn't going to be able to do that by myself. And so we met up here in Atlanta, we have a restaurant called Upbeat. And so we met there and talked for hours about how we wanted to grow the business and how the partnership was going to work. And so since then, I have continued to do graphic design. So I designed all of our visuals that you see on our Instagram page. I designed our website as well. I also have a full-time job. I'm an event and experience coordinator for a nonprofit here in Atlanta. And so that's currently what I'm doing. So Jazz, I don't know if you want to pick up where I left off.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice to meet all of you ladies. My name is Jaslyn Pitts. And a little bit about my background. I have an undergrad in merchandising from Florida State University. And so I had to do an internship. And during that time, I had to do an internship to get my degree. And I did it at Nordstrom. So that's definitely where we met and kind of kicked it off, definitely clicked. And then from there, I went to grad school at Savannah College of Art and Design for luxury and fashion management. So I stuck with the fashion and merchandising kind of role. And definitely after that, I hooked up with Kia and I'm like, I see you're doing her market. Like we really should collaborate on something. And it really, like, honestly, I feel like when we started to put our ideas together, it really just took off. We had our first market. We had our first meeting in, I think, March, and our first market was in July of that same year. And it was amazing. We had no background in doing markets or anything like that. And it's kind of definitely taken off from there.
Yeah, we've only been doing, I'm sorry, we've only been doing this for about, our first market was last year? Is that correct?
Our first market was in
2018.
Yeah.
It was in 2018. Yeah. Right. Yep.
So explain to us, sorry, my camera's going away. Explain to us how this is a pivot from what you were doing before.
Okay, well, we've kind of pivoted in two ways, actually. So, of course, the bulk of our business was in-person experiences. So markets, and then we expanded into panels because we realized that's what our audience really liked. Mm-hmm. And so since then, of course, we haven't been able to do that. So we wanted to, in a sense, bring the market to the people in their homes. And we still wanted to be able to support these women-owned indie brands that we work with every day. And so we decided to launch an online store. Mm-hmm. In addition to, of course, virtual experiences, those things, those content things that kind of keep the community engaged. But the online store is kind of the biggest thing. And to be honest, it's kind of something that I haven't really seen before, where you can find all women-owned indie brands in one place. Mm-hmm. And so we're really, really excited about that. The second way we've had to pivot is with our audience. So initially we started this, of course, to support women-owned indie brands. But we realized in order to really support them, we went from like really focusing on the vendors with everything that we did from content and everything like that, to deciding that we really need to shift our focus kind of to the shopper, because those are the people who are going to be buying from these vendors. And so we can have all the relationships in the world with all of these brands, but if we have nobody to buy from them, then we're not really helping them. So we've recently pivoted to changing our content and things like that to kind of focus on the shopper and building that community. And we were kind of building it in person, but really building it online digitally, especially since COVID.
That's great. And then tell us about what you would use this money specifically for to advance your mission.
Sure. Jazz, you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. So the majority of the funds will definitely go to our initial buying. A little bit about the concept is it's definitely going to be 100% women-owned businesses at this shop. So the money that we'll use, we will be investing all of the money, or the majority of the money, into these women-owned businesses to buy wholesale from them. So the money is going to go a long way. It's not just going to stop with Kia and I. We have tons of vendors that have applied to be a part of the shop, and we'll be buying wholesale from these vendors. Something else is we will have feature shops on our website or on the shop. So we have the Period Shop, which will be a one-stop place where you can come and purchase everything you need to have a happy period. So we've been in contact with a lot of brands like the Honey Pot Company and Dot Cup, and they are very excited about this concept. So yeah, we're very excited about that as well.
Yeah, and the whole idea around our business model, why we decided to do wholesale, was because initially we were thinking of a vendor fee model. To where they would essentially be fulfilling the orders, or they would be essentially be paying a fee to be in the shop. But after speaking with a few of the brands, the closer brands that we work closer with, they said that wholesale was would help them better. It was better beneficially for them. So we, in addition to that, and the fact that it was just a better business model in general, that's kind of why we decided to go that route. And so this grant would really help us with being able to carry more brands, because currently, due to lack of funds, we can only carry a limited amount of brands, and we can only launch with a certain amount of categories, which we're starting with skincare, beauty, wellness, and home fragrance. We also want to carry accessories and apparel as well, because we have vendors in those categories, but due to lack of funds, we're not able to at the moment. So with the grant, we would definitely be able to expand that category range, as well as carry more brands and more products from these brands.
Right. And Bibi, you had a question.
Said, of course I did. Your website indicates that y'all have launched an online store. am I reading that correctly? Have you activated the online revenue channels? And then can you give us a little bit of context? It sounds like this may be your first business and you guys seem super buttoned up and on point with what we're trying to accomplish, but can you give us some insight into your financials that you feel comfortable sharing to the group?
Sure. To answer your first question, we have not launched an online store. We have a partnership with a women's co-working space here in Atlanta. And so we have a shop within their co-working space. And we've recently, which I don't think that's on the page, so you may not have seen that, but we have like a separate page for their members to kind of shop directly with the brands that are represented in the shop due to the fact that it's been closed. But that's probably what you're seeing in reference to the Lola and the shop that we have with them. As far as our financials, we earned about $40,000 in revenue last year. But that was from our vendor fees for the markets as well as ticket sales. However, we didn't really see much of that as far as profit because it went right back into our markets as far as venue and paying vendors to do, decor and things like that. So we didn't see too much of that profit wise. And then as far as revenue this year, we haven't, again, since we haven't been able to do the in-person experiences, we haven't really been able to generate revenue, but we're hoping to do that through this online store as well as some other virtual experiences as well.
Right.
Does that answer your question? I just want to make sure I answered it. Okay.
Can you give us a little bit of, your background? I know you mentioned it before, but like previous successes, things that we can say, oh, they've done well here, and so we have a high confidence they'll do well again.
Gotcha. Well, our markets, I can speak to our markets. Our markets have generated about $10,000 in sales for the vendors. So those are the sales that, people have spent. So about $50 on average per person was spent at our markets. And we've had almost up to about 30 vendors per market. And we've had about 200 participants at our markets as well. We've started also attaching panels to our market experiences. So like the week before, the night before, we'll have a panel. And within that panel experience is also a pop-up shop with a vendor of our choosing. It just depends on the topic of the panel, what vendor we choose. And so that as well, it was pretty successful. As far as outside of her market, we have a background in retail. So we definitely know, we know the shopper, we're shoppers. We know what shoppers are looking for. We know that, and that also goes into like our markets. We're known for having really curated markets. You will not find just any type of brands at our markets. We look into branding. We, of course, look into quality. But we know the shopper looks for things that are appealing to the eye. So our markets are very, very, very heavily based on that. And so that's the background we have, just personally as women who shop and as two women who have been in the retail industry for a long time.
Does anyone else have any questions for Kia and Jaslyn? We're so happy to have you here. This is awesome.
Oh, we're so excited. You have no idea.
I'm trying to contain it, but we're really excited.
Something really special, and we're very, very grateful. Maggie says she likes the playlist. I gotta check those out.
Yes. We took a break from them for a while. Jaslyn is actually our playlist curator. I keep telling her to put that in her bio because she does an amazing job with our playlists.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you all want us to know?
That we all want you to know. We're just really grateful for this opportunity. We really, this would really help us to catapult our brand in general, and really help us to help more of these women-owned brands, because at the end of the day, what they need are sales, and what they need is exposure, and that will allow us to do that for them. So we just really all creating this, and because this quarantine has really caused us to really sit down with this brand and really pivot. Like we have changed up brand messaging, we have changed our audience. Like it's been crazy, like how much we have had to change, but it was all good change. And I don't think we would have noticed it had we not had this quarantine period. So it's really cool. Mm-hmm.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here, and we appreciate what you're doing. So
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Allison, how are you? Hi, are you there?
Hello.
I'm very jealous of your background. That's the main thing that I want to start out by saying. So, yeah.
I see that Reagan Kane has one very similar. I don't know if she's next door, but it looks like very similar to mine.
Yes.
I wish.
Reagan does a lot of things very well. We can just go ahead and say that categorically. Okay, well, thank you for being here. We're really excited about the Museum of Graffiti, and we just want to know more. So if you can tell us kind of like, I know y'all just launched, so tell us sort of like the impetus for the Museum of Graffiti, and then how you really talk about how you had to pivot during this time.
Okay, well, obviously it goes without saying, but I just have to start by saying thank you so much. I'm probably eating up my own time, but I just wouldn't be able to go on without saying thank you. My name's Allison Frieden. I'm from Miami, Florida. My whole life has been filled with pivoting experiences. For instance, I went to Tulane University in New Orleans, Louisiana, undergrad, and unfortunately in the middle of that, just as an example, was Hurricane Katrina. And so my whole life I've spent pivoting when natural disasters or pandemics or whatever it is, I mean, this is the first pandemic, have come my way. Not only that, I have pivoted in my own personal career to match the changing times, and I believe that the Museum of Graffiti is the perfect example of that. So the Museum of Graffiti is the first museum in the entire world dedicated to the street and graffiti art form. So I don't know what cities everybody's in, but I can almost guarantee that there's at least a street or a neighborhood somewhere that's recently been made beautiful by street artists and graffiti artists. However, at least in my community and everywhere I traveled, there was nowhere in the entire world to learn about these artists. And there was nowhere in the entire world that was talking about their techniques and where they came from and the history of this art form. And growing up in Miami, we have an incredible neighborhood here called Wynwood. And Wynwood was a sleepy industrial neighborhood with whitewashed buildings, and really no one paid attention to it. Growing up, I never even heard of it. Being a third generation Miami local, I'd never heard of Wynwood before. And all of a sudden, people started trickling over there more and more. And right now, it's the hottest real estate in like, you know, it's on par with Times Square, right here in Wynwood. And that's because of the power of street art. And, you know, we were consuming the street art. Bars and restaurants were becoming very successful because of the street art here in Wynwood. It became the epicenter of Art Basel. But again, there was no one celebrating these graffiti artists and street artists who had been really marginalized by mainstream galleries, collecting institutions, etc. So I thought to myself, I'd always been in public service. I really wanted to do something, but this time, you know, I did decide to start it as a company. We're an LLC. We're not a 501c3. I've been an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur my entire life. I started off as a little girl doing lemonade stands. And then when I grew out of lemonade stands, I was selling bottled water. I've always hustled, and really this has been kind of one of the most challenging things I've ever had to deal with. So just, I know I'm rambling, so cut me off at any time, but so we opened our doors for the very first time in the middle of Art Basel, which was December 5th, 2019. We had the attention of the New York Times, Forbes, BBC, Women's Wear Daily, like you name it, we were being covered. We threw the biggest party, Vogue, everything. All of a sudden, the whole world was interested. And so I got a unique opportunity to test my product. You know, the thirst and the demand was so powerful. We did an incredible first few months. So we had December, January, February, and then we shut down mid-March. And unfortunately, the business model that we had set up had no e-commerce whatsoever. We were a brick and mortar, old school establishment, mom and pop shop. I'm the mom and my partner's the pop. We own a company 50-50. And we were doing amazing. We had actually generated partnerships with big companies that we were just developing on. You won't believe me, but we engaged with Carnival Cruise Lines, and of course that's no longer. There were other really big partners, and we only had this brick and mortar establishment. So when the government said it's time to close, we closed. And ever since that day, I did not sleep trying to get my company online. I spent every single day, I myself, I'd never touched a website before in my life. And, you know, within the week had a full functioning gift shop online for the Museum of Graffiti. We did nightly art talks. Some of the biggest graffiti artists in the world have now joined our nightly art talks. Every single night we produce an art talk on Instagram Live. Futura, Jose Parla, who recently painted, you know, the One World Trade, which is the World Trade Center where it used to be. These big supporters are behind us. But we are totally trapped by having a brick and mortar spot without a way to disseminate all of our powerful information, the history of the graffiti art movement, everything that's happening all over the world in communities of street art. We need to be able to disseminate it to you and you and you and you and everybody to have, you know, you be able to become an online member, for instance, where you get to enjoy exclusive content that we produce that's educational for children. Another thing we produced was downloadable coloring books. We were one of the first people to get that done and get that online, free of charge for all the parents who had children stuck at home and needed new activities to keep everybody excited and keep the energy and morale in the house up.
So tell me this. So we're having several of the seed funders are wondering, like, we don't understand the concept of a for-profit museum. Is it like a gallery? Just kind of help us flesh that out.
That's such a good question. And because I am so excited to answer it. So we have a lot of revenue streams as a brick and mortar institution, right? So we offer admission. Tickets to enter the exhibition are $16. We do have a gallery that sells fine art. So what we've done is we've allotted a certain amount of square footage in our space for the coolest graffiti art you'll ever see. We have exhibitions right now, and that's part of what we need the money for, is to transition this art gallery online. We've joined other, you know, sites where you can list art like ArtNet. Those are, first of all, are not free. They charge you a lot of money to be an online gallery. But we think we could go farther, because our art gallery is not just white walls and art. Ours, you know, everything gets painted. You feel like you're in it, and we can produce that online if we have the capital to do that, which increase buyers' engagement, and you become excited to take a piece of that home with you. So that's the second revenue stream. The third revenue stream is that we have a world-class gift shop. That gift shop right now, I ran from doing press downstairs with the news up here to talk to you guys, because they're so excited about the make your own custom mask that we launched again in brick and mortar. We have a tent outside the museum right now. I got that from my lemonade stand days. You know, people are scared to go inside, you pop up outside. And you know, we're making masks, we're staying safe, we're doing custom masks for people walking up. And so we have an online gift shop. That's our third revenue stream. The fourth revenue stream is obviously venue rentals. People love the museum, love how it looks. That's been completely pulled out from underneath us. What's really interesting in terms of the pivot, how we can pivot, is one of our biggest revenue streams is corporate sponsorships. So if I was able to produce really cool educational content online. For instance, graffiti drawing classes for children where they learn to do bubble letters with drop shadowing and characters. That you can then get, once you start getting an audience for that, this is digital content, then you get big corporate sponsors who want to get in. Crayola wants to come in, this person wants to get in, and that generates revenue for my business. So corporate sponsorships is yet another revenue stream. And we've just found a way that we can take this whole operation, put it online, and get right back to where we are. But it takes money in order to digitize our assets, hire people to film the content, hire people to create the content, pay the artists. A lot of my overhead is simply paying artists to do custom masks. That costs me more than, just buying a blank mask.
I know, I kind of want one. I really want one, actually.
I'm happy. Just email me on the side and I'll send you one. Don't worry about it.
Y'all do, this is Alexia. Do y'all do custom tours of the Wynwood walls? We went down there and we did a graffiti tour in Bogota in December and everything else. So, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity to kind of really explain everything.
Thank you for asking that. We are actually on the same block as the Wynwood Walls. We are right in the middle of everything. Unfortunately, right this second, the Wynwood Walls remain closed. They've closed the gates and no one's allowed right in. But what I can tell you right now is we've done the best we can with no income. So what we created was a self-guided walking tour. So what that entails is we made a map. The map has numbers by every mural, and so as you walk along, you see, oh, I'm passing by mural number 1. You flip it over to the other side. Forgive me not having a manicure. You flip it over to the other side, and you can actually read a paragraph about the artist who made it, when they made it, what their inspiration was, and their techniques. So our next goal, if I were to win or earn, or I don't know what the proper terminology is, would certainly be to make a virtual experience that brings you so much education, so much programming specifically about street art. And it's not a 501c3. It would be an experience that, folks could use as a learning tool for their children with a small, either suggested donation or a very nominal fee, similar to downloading a song on iTunes or a podcast for about $1.99, something along those lines.
And so when you say donation, it's really more like they're paying you because you're for profit. But
Sure.
Okay.
So just to give you an example, right now our downloadable coloring books, we wanted to do that for the community at large, but we certainly have overhead when we produce those. So those go on our website as an option. We know that everybody's going through COVID right now, not just us. We know that parents have kids at home, and it says there's a drop-down menu for each coloring book, and it gives you the option, download this for free, or you can pay $2 for it. You guys would be amazed how many people choose to pay $2 to help us cover our overhead.
I've spent lots of money with our artists.
Yeah.
I'll type it in.
What other questions do we have for Allison before she leaves it? And what we're doing, Allison, just to let you know, we have questions on the call, but then there's going to be follow-up questions. If you wouldn't mind those over the next couple of days, that would be really helpful for us if anyone has a question afterwards.
So I'm sorry, what was the second part? The internet went out.
Oh, sure. I just said we have questions on the call, but due to the limited time, if people have questions afterwards, I'm going to compile those and send them to you. If you'll just respond to us, that'd be great.
I would love that. I love talking about the museum. It's been a game changer for the entire community, and understanding how much it's impacted my local community. I can't wait to bring it to the whole world.
Yeah, and guess what? Emily's been there.
I have.
Oh, you've been to the museum?
Yeah, I took my girls in January. We did.
No, did you like it?
I loved it. I saw it. I was like, I've actually been there, and we loved it every second.
Did you get a tour?
Yes, we walked all the way through, did everything. Yeah.
Oh my God, thank you so much. I just got the chills. So the only thing that's changed now is that we're not allowed to do tours once we're officially open. We have QR codes. So, you know, there's websites where you can do free QR codes, and you scan that with your cell phone as you're walking through the exhibition, and you can hear audio. My partner goes through and talks about, like, these are the trains from the 1970s and stuff like that. And so there's now a whole self-guided audio tour through the exhibition. So you promise to come back.
I will be there.
We're all
We
gonna
love it. We're all
take a
coming.
trip if you win. And also, we have one more question. The $350,000 in revenue that you put in your application, can you just tell us, like, where all that came from? We're just kind of mystified in a good way.
Oh yeah, we did $100,000 a month for the first 3 months that we were open.
Was it ticket sales or events or sponsorships or?
Ticket sales was one. We had a partnership with Levi's. We had a partnership with Related Group. I mentioned that Carnival Cruise came in for a hot second. Really what it is that I am my company, and I curate content that businesses want to associate with is number one. Number two, the gift shop is huge. And number three, the art sales. So I'll have a day where, you know, we'll sell a $10,000 piece of artwork, and that's a great day for us. You know, that covers rent for half the month. And that's one day of the month. And so we're in an art district, but this art needs to be disseminated to everybody. It's being consumed by being just here in Miami. But there's a huge opportunity to bring this virtual reality graffiti experience where you can basically walk down the road and get a tour, understand more. It's super educational. It's super child friendly because it's bright, it's rebellious, but it's art, and it makes everybody so happy to be there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate you, and we appreciate
Thank you. And regardless of what happens, I hope everybody is safe. And when we get to reopen, please come visit. And I cried just seeing that you guys listened to my idea. So thank you so much, and I hope to see you guys soon.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? Do we get to see your face?
I'm trying. There we go.
It said
And then
a little bit confused. I'm glad you're here with us. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Sure. Okay. So tell us about Open Kitchen DC, and tell us about just how you pivoted during this time. We want to know the whole story.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm Mary, and I found Open Kitchen DC in 2009 after about 5 or 6 years of wanting to bring others the experiences that I was having to just experience an immigrant's kitchen. I had developed friendships with immigrants and loved to cook, and would often just say, hey, can I come cook with you in your kitchen? And it just developed such a sweet friendship, and it overcame language barriers and cultural barriers. And so I originally was thinking it would be on a small scale, kind of like I was experiencing, where I would invite people into other immigrants' homes, but just feasibly, that wasn't very practical. So it was something I just kind of kept mulling over. And then I realized that there were a lot of we have some of the best immigrant-owned restaurants here in DC, and utilizing their Slack space was a concept that would work. And so I kind of got my ducks in a row, had this whole concept that I had never seen anybody do, where it's kind of part cooking class, part it's highly relational, it's in the comfort of the immigrant's own restaurant, and people get to sample then all their best food. And really I was only targeting the best restaurants that represented their culture and their food. So last May, I hosted a soft launch with friends to just test out the idea before I built a website or kind of went big with it. And my friends had a blast. It was at an Ethiopian restaurant in Alexandria. And the owners just came alive as they shared their story, and people engaged and asked questions and showed interest in them. And Hannah, the woman owner, who's usually very shy, started making jokes and like feeding people from the food she was cooking. And it was just really fun. And people were surprised that like Ethiopian food was so simple. They could make this amazing awazi tibs in 15 minutes. And then we provided them at the end spices so that that was the key ingredient to awazi tibs, was the beer. And that's not something we could get off the shelf, right? So they went home with a recipe, with spices, with a coupon to return to the restaurant, because our desire is not to have it be a one-time event, but have people come back after they feel like they understand the food and have a connection with the owner. And people, the owners got back to me and said over half the people that came just to that soft launch came back to their restaurant, used their coupon. And then I still have friends making the awazi tibs recipe. I had somebody last night, I was texting with her and she said, my kids loved it. Who knew, And so it's just a great way to make connections with our immigrant neighbors. And then for me as an at-home cook, like kind of demystify that global cuisine that I'm so interested in. And so our pivot came pretty quickly because we launched in January, hosted 2 sold out events, had a 3rd event that was already sold out. We had planned this 4th event for March 15th, and it was like, I think it had 30 attendees. It was a larger space, so it technically didn't sell out. And then the pandemic was starting to, like, everybody was getting nervous. And so I took a survey of all my attendees and said, do you feel comfortable if we have social distancing measures, if we clean, if we put everything on individual plates? Because originally we were going to have some shared stuff, and we were like, okay, like what can we do to make this safe? So we really we were kind of on the forefront of like things that everybody's thinking about now. Like we had to think about it before guidelines were given. And so half my attendees said, I still want to come. And I talked to the owners, and the owners said, I will do this even if 5 people come, because they were so panicked. I mean, all of the restaurant owners were so nervous because nobody knew what this meant. And so we decided to proceed, like really just out of support for them. And another part of my pivot was I reached out. There's this group on Instagram, a bunch of millennials that are like, they call themselves the DMV foodie crew. So I reached out to the founder of that and I said, hey, do you think you could rally if I let people come at cost, like give them at cost tickets? Can you rally some people? Because I really want to fill out the restaurant for the owners of Yaila Bistro. And so he said, yeah. And within 24 hours, I had 6 additional guests coming. So we were able to host a socially distant event. It was a blast. The owners really enjoyed it. It gave them a good distraction because their people coming to their restaurant was already really slim. And then the people that came really got that they were there to support the owners. And so like almost everybody ordered alcohol because that wasn't included in my cost. So they were all like, and I had people donating their tickets to Yaila. So it was just this really good time to like rally around a small business. And then multiple people at the event bought gift certificates, stuff like that. So then pretty quickly after that, I started communicating on social media and through my email groups about ways that we can support local immigrant-owned restaurants, specifically the ones I was already working with, but really encouraging people not to use third-party services like Uber Eats, to call the restaurant directly so that they can make all of the profit. And then I also was sending out emails, especially as my immigrant network grew, saying, here are really great immigrant restaurants that we can support, and kind of putting a story and a name to those restaurants. And then 2 weeks into the pandemic, over the news, I heard about a nonprofit called Feed the Fight, who is delivering meals to healthcare workers. And I looked on their website, and most of the restaurants that they were utilizing in the DC area were kind of large chains. They weren't, I think they had one immigrant. It might've been one Mexican restaurant. So they were these already pretty successful big chains. And so I reached out to them and said, hey, what about the small immigrant restaurants? I have ones in my network that would love to deliver meals. And so they said, okay. And so through that partnership, and then now I've not only partnered with Feed the Fight DC, but Feed the Fight Alexandria that also sends meals to Fairfax, Virginia. We delivered 2,000 immigrant made meals. And so that's really allowed me to forge more friendships with immigrant-owned restaurants. Now I have 10 partners that I work closely with, and really show like them that I care about them as people. This was not financially motivated in any way, and really just continue to allow a really sweet friendship to blossom with a number of them, where we're not only professionally acquainted, but some real friendships have blossomed where they know my family, they ask about my family, I've helped them with certain things like their family, medical stuff, and it's just developed into some really beautiful relationships. So the Pivot Fund is a really exciting opportunity for me, because to relaunch these events would be difficult without a little bit of help, because we were already needing to max out the immigrant space, because the immigrant restaurants usually only have about 30 or 40 seats. And so with social distancing measures, if we can only host these at about 15 to 20 people, that's financially not very viable for us. So we'd like to use a little bit of the grant funds to help kind of supplement and to increase the amount that we pay the owners. We'd also like to use it for marketing and advertising to get like great photos of these restaurants and the owners and their food, and help them tell the story over social media and through our website. And then also just get some consulting on like marketing and social media, because everything that we've done has just been mostly me scrapping things together and then having some friends help. So I would love to be able to have some money to really invest in helping get the word out in a really great professional way, because I think that this really could become a really like signature Northern Virginia, DC area thing to do. And we also envision going to other cities like Birmingham or Atlanta, Virginia Beach, other cities where there are a lot of immigrants, and teaching other people to do what we do and allowing them to have open kitchen in their city.
That's awesome. Okay, so Andrea had a question. She's from Atlanta.
Hey, Mary. Hey,
Hi.
I was curious. Are you are you a for-profit or a nonprofit currently?
I am for-profit.
And how were you making revenue, or are making revenue right now?
So I pay the restaurants, it's a individually negotiated price, but I find most of them want to make about $25 per person. I'd like to increase that to $30 per person. But I charge technically $65-ish for my tickets. Often I offer a discount. So I'm making, I pay them half-ish, and I also provide like the spice jars, and I bring a couple of things, and I do the marketing and advertising for them. So there is some overhead for sure, but it's around a 50-50 split.
And can you go into a little bit more about like what you would do with the actual $25,000 if you received it?
Yeah. So I would like to have a photography project that goes around to each of the immigrant restaurants and kind of captures them in their environment, and then uses that to help tell their stories. One of my owners is a Uyghur man who fled for his life because he found out that he was on a list in his home country of China to be sent to one of the re-education camps. So he left numerous successful businesses, was unable to take any of his funds, and came here to the US. And just since 2017, when he arrived, he's already owns a restaurant and is rebuilding his life for he and his 3 children. So there's just some really neat people that I would like to help tell their stories and promote them. I'd like help on my website. I have just used Squarespace, and I'm not a designer. And so I'd like to use those photographs and have somebody kind of help me put more of a cohesive website together. I'd like to have some advertising dollars, because I just need help getting the word out about this. And then I'd like to hire some support staff. I'd like to train somebody to do, help me with administrative stuff, help me at events. And then I envision having numerous events a week. Also to the question about finances, I've had multiple people reach out to me about private events, and private events are more profitable. And so I can make about 30% more on those, and they take a lot less work because I don't have to do individual registrations and advertise it. So as the public events are not super profitable, but they are helping get the word out about these. And so as corporations, especially as like an alternate team building or a client networking, I've already had somebody in the financial services industry say she wants to do this as a client networking event. Realtors have said they think this would be a really fun way to treat their clients. And then also like kind of an alternative holiday party, like just do something different that's really engaging. So you know, kind of continue to get the word out as far as marketing, advertising, having staff help me be able to do this on a larger scale where we have more events going on. And then just to help relaunch. I mean, there's right now in the budget, there's like $7,000. If I had $500-ish per event, it would help cover that, the shrinking the size of my events. And by relaunching, then also as we get going, then that will generate more private events, which are more profitable.
And can you tell us a little bit about your background or something, you know, just to let us know that you will be a proven success?
Absolutely. So I worked as an event planner for the Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association International. So I planned events at fabulous places like Ritz-Carlton's and Four Seasons. And my husband says he married me just in time before I totally got spoiled, and that would be all that I would go do. And so that was really fun. That was a great way to start my career. And then from there, I ventured out on my own. I had my own consulting business, and I worked, there's a lot of nonprofits in the DC area. So I consulted with them doing fundraisers, and like I worked for the International Chiefs of Police Association and the Gildas Club International, different things like that. And then I was approached by the Philanthropy Roundtable, which is, its members are philanthropists like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And they asked me to come on and on board and plan their annual meeting. So that was a 500-person, 3.5-day meeting with 75 speakers. And usually multiple smaller events surrounding it. That was usually held at a luxury property because, again, those members were philanthropists or board members of foundations. So I was doing really high-end, lots of logistics, like, 75 speakers, 35 sessions in 3.5 days for very demanding kind of important clients. So that's my background. And then I had 3 kids in 3.5 years. And so that became a very high priority, and shifted my focus to that for several years, but continued. I mean, event planning is one of those skills that you show up at church or anywhere and they go, oh, you can help us with this. And so I have continued to use that, and also during that time attended a 5-month culinary program, one of the top 10 culinary programs in the nation, and studied under a French chef. So I pursued my culinary interest and have continued to serve more recently, like at my church, planning a Thanksgiving feast for refugees. So different things like that.
That's awesome. Okay, anybody have any questions for Mary? I know the timeline is tight, and what we're doing is, if anyone has any follow-up questions, then we will email them to you. And if you don't mind just responding to us, that would be great.
Absolutely, no problem.
Right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for the opportunity. I'm really excited.
Me too. All right. Bye. Thanks, Mary.
Bye. Thank you.